Now this tutorial, folks, I have to say is one of my all-time favorites. It has to do with the 3D effect in Photoshop. That's the 3D effect in Adobe Photoshop. So how do we go about achieving that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is open our workspace. All right, open up our workspace, and we're going to choose a type. And for those of you who really love superhero, such as I, we are going to type the Flash. All right, okay, we're going to type the Flash as we see here, and I'm going to go to the character panel. I'm going to change the color to candy apple red as we see here, and once I have that, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I'm on this layer. Click on the text option tool, and then at the very top you want to create wrapped or warped text. That's create warped text right here. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to give me the option to warp this text accordingly. For now, I'm going to choose arc, and this is the arc it gives me. But you have somewhat of a control over the arc in question, and to control that arc, let's say I'm not too happy with this bend, so I'm going to bring it back to 0, just like that. However, horizontal distortion I want to imply, and so I'll end up with something like this. All right, and that seems to be good enough. So we are still in the text mode given what we see here as a cursor. So I'm going to go up to the move tool, click on it to make sure I'm back to my move option. Now once in my move option, the next thing I'm going to do is add a bevel to this layer. So I'm going to click on the effects, bevel. A bevel has been applied, but if you notice we have those black edges. Well, we don't want our bevel to have black edges here. So to change the edges, which is actually our shadows, we're going to change the color of our shadow to this red. And by choosing this red right here, you see the red has disappeared from our text. So I'm going to click OK. Our shadow is red, so it blends in with what we have here. I'm going to click OK to that. Now for the miracle part of all of this, how do we create the 3D effect? Well, once we have our text the way we want it, make sure you're on the text layer, go to your keyboard, hold the Alt key down, go to the arrow keys, and press the arrow key down. Keep pressing it, keep going down, 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 down until the effect is created. Haha, that's just awesome. That's the 3D effect in Photoshop. And what I'm going to add to embellish this entire thing is, well, I prepared a little picture over here of the Flash. Alright, and I'm just going to click and drag him into this picture. Alright, here he is. I'm going to place him right here, but he's on the top, so I'm just going to call this the Flash. Right, and I'm going to bring this down all the way. I'm going to bring this picture all the way. By bringing it down this far, that means I'm putting it behind our text. So now he's behind our text. And we're going to do a little bit of photo editing here. His flames that are coming out, I'm going to choose an eraser of this caliber. Click over here just to get rid of some of that. Bring it all the way up to, say, here. Okay, that's good enough. And what I'm going to do is right click, and I am going to duplicate the layer, the Flash layer. And what I'm going to do to this layer is I'm going to apply a blur, a motion blur in this case. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. We're really starting to see the Flash. All right. And if I increase the distance, of course, we get this. So I'm going to increase it just a little bit more. All right, to leave it at that. And maybe bring it back a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. So there we have our blur. But the reason this picture shows the way it is because the Flash blur is on top of the clean picture. So I'm just going to click and drag this on top. Now we have a cleaner picture. Now, if I go back to this version of the Flash copy, what I can do is get the move tool, and I'm actually going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm just going to go to my left. I'm just going to click, and pretty much what I'm doing here is I'm moving it. So I'm going to put it all the way up to here. So it matches up with our superhero. So we get this, like, you know, we get the Flash. All right. So now that we have that, we can go back to our font, which is this right here. Okay. And we want to choose the last layer, all right, of text. So that'll be this layer. All right. Now, what'll happen is, I'm sorry, this is the layer that's on top of all the layer, which is what we're looking at now. So if I were to go and choose, let's say, I could bring this up top a little bit. That's the last. This is our last layer. If I were to choose that and go to filter and add a motion blur, all right, it's asking me first of all to rasterize before proceeding. I'm going to say okay. There we go. But that's a little too much, so I'm going to bring it back. All right, and that's our text, you know, giving us that flash zip effect. All right, just like that. And folks, in a nutshell, that's how you create 3D fonts or objects in Adobe Photoshop.